Mark Wahlberg just shook up the courtroom. His appearance was a surprise, and nobody anticipated him walking in with a black leather satchel that sent shockwaves through the ongoing trial in Manhattan. During one of the most scrutinized trials in entertainment history, an unexpected event occurred. The trial was already filled with surprising testimonies from Ashton Kutcher, and even Kylie Jenner's name came up unexpectedly. But nothing could compare to what happened next. When Wahlberg entered the courtroom, it was clear he wasn't there for publicity. He was there to reveal the truth. The atmosphere was charged, filled with reporters, whispers, and lawyers adjusting their notes, but the room went silent as soon as Mark stepped inside. He didn't wave or smile, nor did he glance at the audience. Dressed sharply in a dark suit, he held on to the satchel as if it contained something weighty, feeling more like a threat than mere evidence. As he walked through the double doors of that Manhattan courtroom, every camera was ready, caught off guard. Whispers erupted instantly, questioning his purpose and knowledge. Upon taking the stand, he wasted no time with formalities, no oath, just a firm voice. "I'm not here to shield anyone," he stated. "I'm here because I witnessed something. I recorded it, and it's time for the public to be informed." Everyone leaned closer, including the judge, who watched him intently. Prosecutor Kelsey Monroe approached and calmly asked, "Mr. Wahlberg, can you clarify your relationship with the defendant?" Mark replied that he met Sean in the early 2000s while trying to shake off his past. They shared social circles, events, and eventually were invited to retreats he referred to as executive gatherings. He hesitated and added that they weren't always what they seemed. Then, without another word, he reached into his satchel and produced a flash drive, stating, "This is something I've never shown anyone, neither my team nor my family." The tension in the room shifted dramatically. It felt as if the air had thickened. Everyone went still. As Mark handed over the flash drive, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. People moved uneasily in their seats, and even the lawyers appeared, unsettled, aware that the case had just taken a significant turn. Mark explained that he had stored the footage years ago on a hard drive and hadn't revisited it until now. He never thought he would need it. But after seeing the recent headlines, Diddy's arrest, Ashton Kutcher's testimony, and the resurfacing of the Kylie Jenner clip, all the memories came rushing back. "I realized I wasn't imagining things," Mark said. "What I saw actually happened, and I still have proof." That's when Judge Reyes intervened. He requested a private examination of the video footage, ensuring no media, cameras, or public access. The courtroom was temporarily adjourned. What unfolded behind those closed doors shocked even the most seasoned legal professionals present. Upon their return, when they played the footage for everyone in attendance, the courtroom was unprepared for what would follow. Then, the screen illuminated. Although the footage was grainy, it was still understandable. It depicted an elegantly furnished lounge, softly lit with candles, clearly a luxurious venue. Laughter could be heard in the background. The camera zoomed in slightly to reveal Diddy sitting centrally on a plush sofa, cigar in hand. Two men flanked him, their faces obscured. One leaned in and whispered something to Diddy, who then leaned forward and uttered a phrase that left the entire courtroom breathless. "They don't get to leave until we say so." The audience couldn't contain their reactions. Kelsey Monroe turned to Mark and asked where this took place. "The Hamptons, August 2008, he answered. "It followed a charity event. We were told it was an exclusive VIP gathering, but upon arrival, they took everyone's phones, made us sign NDAs, and secured the venue." Monroe inquired about why he recorded it. Without hesitating, Mark replied it felt wrong. "I wasn't entirely sure what I witnessed, but I knew I couldn't just walk away empty-handed." They then showed a second clip, which appeared to be a narrow hallway, dimly lit, possibly near a suite or private area. A man in a black hoodie was escorting two clearly intoxicated women down the hall, with Diddy trailing closely behind, speaking quietly. The audio was poor, but one line was clear. "Get him in the room. I want everything on camera." The entire room reacted audibly. It wasn't just another piece of information. It struck hard. Mark looked ashen and remained silent. "I left after that night," he admitted. "I never attended another event. When calls came in, I ignored them. I tossed any invitations, but I couldn't erase that memory." The prosecutor, Monroe, leaned in and gently asked why he hadn't come forward sooner. Mark's response was subdued. "Because I didn't want to die," he clarified. "I'm not exaggerating. I witnessed what happened to those who spoke up. They lost jobs, faced negative press, and just vanished. I had a family, so I chose to remain silent and tried to move on. But now it's impossible to forget." The room fell into silence, no one willing to speak. Monroe then asked if he thought there were other recordings. Mark nodded slowly. "That's the only one I personally filmed, but I know there were more. Sean always had someone recording. He claimed it was for his memoirs, but it felt more like a form of insurance, like blackmail." Monroe continued to press for more details. Mark didn't rush his response. He took a moment, glanced down, and then shared a memory from years later, at a fashion event in LA. He recounted overhearing a conversation between Sean and a manager about leverage, with one particular line standing out to him. They mentioned that she was never meant to be caught on camera. Despite claiming it, he still possessed the original footage. When Monroe asked for clarification on who they were discussing, Mark said he didn't know, but recalled that the guy spoke of a care problem, a term that seemed strange back then but now felt clearer. In the courtroom, the atmosphere shifted once more. Everyone sat silently, arms crossed, faces flushed. There was no noise, just the sound of lawyers frantically taking notes, rifling through documents and whispering among themselves. Morrow addressed Judge Broner, asserting that this wasn't merely a personal recollection, but indicative of a larger trend. It illustrated that as early as 2008, the defendant had been secretly recording private moments, using his connections manipulatively, directing individuals like chess pieces. Judge Reyes acknowledged this by stating that the witness had provided previously unknown verified evidence. Just when it appeared the courtroom had reached its limit, Monroe introduced something new. He requested permission to play a voicemail retrieved during their investigation. This message was left on Mr. Wahlberg's phone shortly after the 2008 Hamptons event. As the voicemail played, a distorted male voice could be heard saying, "You didn't see anything. Don't talk. It's just business." The caller's number was blocked, and their voice was altered. However, Mark remained, composed, asserting it was him. He recognized that insincere, friendly tone. It was his way of intimidating others while feigning casualness. When asked if there were any follow-ups, Mark confirmed that 2 weeks later, his manager received a production offer from a company linked to Sean, which they declined. Soon after, a blog published a negative article painting him as difficult to work with, followed by another outlet leaking an old arrest from his teenage years. That was the moment he realized he was being worn down. As the court session drew to a close, Mark leaned into the microphone, maintaining a steady yet quiet voice. He expressed that he wasn't seeking revenge, but instead came forward because he understood the burden of secrets, especially as a father to daughters. If any part of what other witnesses had said held truth, if figures like Kylie Jenner, Cassie Ventura, and possibly many others were implicated, then remaining silent wasn't an option anymore. For the first time since he took the stand, Mark fixed his gaze directly on Diddy and questioned, "Do you recall that night? You know what was on those tapes and what you did?" Diddy remained entirely still, not blinking or moving at all. Monroe concluded by requesting the judge to secure the flash drive under federal protection for Wahlberg's safety and to issue subpoenas for 3 individuals referenced in the video clips. Judge Reyes concurred with the request. As the court session ended, The media outside erupted with sensational headlines. Mark Wahlberg testifies against Diddy. 2008 secret tapes confirmed. The hidden room no one was meant to see. Inside the courtroom, one pressing question lingered. If Mark Wahlberg had concealed that footage for over 10 years, who else might have undisclosed tapes? The atmosphere in the courtroom was already tense. However, what followed not only intensified that tension, but shattered it completely. Mark Wahlberg revealed one of Diddy's most unsettling statements. "You don't need muscle, you just need memories." It struck a chord. Jurors exchanged glances, and a palpable shift occurred. Mark elaborated, saying that initially he thought Diddy was being profound or something similar. He chuckled. But then Diddy added, "I don't forget anything. That's why they don't cross me." The intensity escalated once more. Prosecutor Monroe stepped forward with new evidence, a digital document obtained during the federal raid. It was a partial index from a folder labeled Cold Cases, containing names, dates, and events. Most entries were redacted except for one. "Do you recognize this name?" Monroe asked Jenner Velvet Axis. Mark immediately acknowledged it. Allie. He understood that Velvet Axis referred to restricted visuals, requiring special clearance, indicating she was more than just an attendee. She had a specific role assigned. He described it as a systematic approach. People weren't merely invited. They were categorized with color codes and access levels. Some were visible, others utilized. He stated that Kylie was there to be seen, but not to comprehend her surroundings. Even the judge remained silent, arms crossed, listening intently. Then Mark revealed another significant detail. There were additional tapes. When Monroe inquired about who, Mark hesitated before stating, "Other celebrities. I won't name them. I can't prove it, but I heard him boast about having footage that could be damaging." He recalled Diddy saying, "They all come to my house. They all sign, and they all forget the cameras belong to me." The room fell silent. Next came Exhibit 237, an internal memo retrieved from a secure communication channel, a color-coded schedule from 2019. Coinciding with the night Kylie Jenner attended a private gathering in Holmby Hills. The screen displayed a color-coded list, with each individual having 3 details next to their name: handler, room assignment, and camera route. When Kylie's name appeared, it drew immediate attention. Hannah Dunn location mirroring status, observation, unconsented. In other words, she was not just present, she was monitored without her awareness. A juror gasped, and the atmosphere froze. Monroe read the note at the bottom. Observer profiles to be used for future leverage. No external access allowed. If needed, use Tunnel 3 for security. She turned to Mark again. "Did he ever talk about secret passageways?" "Yes," Mark replied. "He once joked about his tunnels for rats. I thought it was just him showing off. But now I understand." He mentioned, "You can bring someone in and lead them out the other side without anyone knowing." Then, a new witness was introduced by the prosecution, Vincent Perez, a past architect who oversaw renovations at the Home Hills estate. "Did you know about Tunnel 3? "Yes," Perez confirmed. "I didn't create it. It was already there. I merely improved the lighting and ventilation. He wanted it completely soundproof." "Did he say why?" "He claimed it was for meditation," Pierre noted, "but he paid in cash and required me to sign a complete NDA." Monroe inquired about something called the mirror wing. "I only saw it once," he replied, "and it wasn't included in any plans." "What did it look like?" He paused, describing it as a performance space with mirrored walls, red flooring, just one bench, and a ceiling setup that could be for lights or cameras, though I can't be certain. You could see the reaction on Diddy's face. No words were spoken, but his jaw tightened. His attorney objected, labeling it irrelevant, but the judge dismissed the objection. "This isn't mere speculation. This is established architecture." Then came a crucial piece of evidence, a WhatsApp message retrieved from a backup. Diddy texted an unnamed person just hours after Kylie Jenner's visit saying, "Go get the footage. Looks good. I'm going to hold on to this." Monroe glanced at Wahlberg. "Does that fit his behavior?" "Absolutely," Mark confirmed. He always had a grin when plotting something. A second message followed. "She doesn't even remember. Trust me. We just need to ensure her team never finds out." The room fell silent. Monroe faced Wahlberg again. "Did you ever confront Diddy about this?" "Once," Mark said. "I asked him why he recorded people without informing them. He replied, 'Because that's the only way you see their true selves.'" "And what did he intend to do with those recordings?" Mark's voice quieted. "Nothing until I need to." The judge called for a break, but as Mark left the witness stand, he stopped, looking around the room, not into the microphone, but loud enough for everyone to hear. If you ever attended one of those parties, you might be on those tapes. The atmosphere shifted. The press rushed out. Headlines were forming instantly. Wahlberg verifies hidden recordings. Secret rooms Kylie used for leverage. Hollywood's secrets are now exposed. Inside, the jury remained in shocked silence. None of them looked at Diddy because this was no longer about whether something occurred. It was about how many individuals assisted in making it happen, how long they stayed silent, and how deep the situation really went. Wahlberg's departure felt far from final. It felt like the start of something unstoppable. Diddy's expression revealed everything. He wasn't shouting or reacting, yet his body seemed on the brink of collapse. Just 20 feet away from the witness stand, he sat still, jaw clenched and eyes fixed ahead, as his facade of control began to crumble. Then Judge Reyes made an unexpected move that took everyone by surprise. Without any hesitation, she announced that the jury would hear a segment from Audio Exhibit 244. The court officer handed Monroe the playback device, and she nodded before pressing play. The room fell silent, and then Diddy's voice echoed throughout the courtroom, clear, calm, and calculated. "Put her in the gold room. Don't let her out unless I say so, and check the damn cameras this time." The date was September 2nd, 2019, the very night Kylie Jenner was captured on tape in the mirrored hallway. The jurors froze. One even dropped their pen. Monroe looked up and articulated what everyone was thinking. That wasn't just a party. It was orchestrated control. Then she unveiled another shocking revelation: the complete architectural layout of Diddy's Home Hills estate, featuring 3 underground tunnels, a mirrored wing, and a hidden chamber labeled R4, L, and D. She elaborated further, stating that they believed this was where the unlisted recordings were stored behind a biometric-secured mirrored wall. Following that, Samantha Knox, a former low-level assistant who used to manage the door at one of Diddy's events in 2019, stepped forward. After years of silence due to her NDA being upheld, she spoke in court and changed everything with her testimony. "I saw the schedule," she stated, revealing that Kylie wasn't the only one marked with velvet. There were 6 names listed, all women identified by initials and color coding. When asked about the list's organization, she explained, "By arrival time, then by handler, then by wing. What was Dunn's role?" "To manage the Velvet Girls," Samantha answered, noting that she reported to no one, not even the event leads. Then she shared a chilling detail. They were instructed not to engage or even make eye contact with the Velvet Girls, merely to escort them in and leave. She confirmed it had all been meticulously planned. Robes, passes, and handlers equipped, with earpieces. "This wasn't a party," she asserted. "It was a process." Monroe addressed the jury, emphasizing the witness's confirmation of total control over guest movements, enforced through silence and secrecy. But Samantha had more to share. When Monroe gently inquired whether she had ever felt threatened, Samantha's voice quivered as she nodded. After the news broke, she received a letter with no return address, containing a note that read, "What happens in velvet stays in velvet. along with a piece of red string. Diddy's lawyers objected, calling it hearsay, but Judge Reyes permitted it, citing limited testimonial relevance. Just like that, the atmosphere in the courtroom shifted once more. It was no longer simply about the events that transpired, it was about the extent of the operation. Monreal shifted her focus back to the last piece of evidence. It was another audio clip retrieved from a secure cloud platform called Mirror Lake, which had only recently been accessed after being mentioned during Ashton Kutcher's testimony. Once again, Diddy's voice emerged, confidently asserting that despite any discussions, nothing would change. The drinking, signing, and remaining present were all that mattered. The tone expressed wasn't one of anger, but rather a self-satisfied smugness, as if he believed his constructed system was invulnerable, even in the face of a federal trial. Monroe addressed the judge, stating, "Your Honor, we conclude this segment by asserting that Mr. Holmes not only recorded individuals without their consent, but also stored and later utilized these recordings to manipulate perceptions and safeguard himself from exposure." Judge Reyes nodded in acknowledgement. Let it be noted that Exhibit 244 has been verified and accepted. Although Diddy remained silent, his legal team had no choice but to react. Hastings rose to speak, saying they acknowledged the footage but denied any allegations of coercion, insisting that Mr. Combs was a producer who consistently filmed everything as part of his established brand, accepted by all involved. Monroe stood firm, responding, "Consent is never implied, especially when handlers are assigned, phones confiscated, and names erased from records." The judge called for a recess, but the atmosphere in the courtroom felt explosive rather than calming. Outside, chaos erupted. Kylie Jenner's legal representatives issued a statement confirming her presence at Mr. Combs' residence and her full cooperation with authorities. That single statement changed everything. There was no denial and complete collaboration. It was no longer just a scandal. It became a broader investigation. Inside the court, federal agents sought comprehensive access to the Holmby Hill servers. Wahlberg's flash drive was sent for further analysis, and rumors began circulating about sealed subpoenas being distributed, potentially involving other celebrities connected to cold cases. However, what remained unspoken was the most unsettling. Thought, perhaps this went beyond one individual's misdeeds, reflecting systemic issues within the industry that had long been overlooked. Before exiting the courtroom, Monroe made a brief comment to the media, stating, "This trial transcends the events that took place in one room. It reveals numerous hidden rooms and the individuals who constructed them to remain concealed." As clips from Wahlberg's testimony gained traction online, one headline encapsulated the moment perfectly. "Hollywood's vault has opened, and the tapes are authentic." By the following morning, everything had transformed. What began with an unexpected witness, Mark Wahlberg, had ignited a much larger situation than anyone had foreseen. This was no longer solely about a single tape, party, or celebrity. Agents were operating swiftly, not just scrutinizing footage, but also uncovering hidden connections and discreetly issuing sealed subpoenas to figures throughout Hollywood, big names and recognizable faces who had once believed themselves immune to scrutiny. Behind the curtain, chaos erupted. Some famous figures abruptly went mute, turning off comments and vanishing from online platforms. Others started preparing statements through their legal representatives, aiming to get ahead of any potential revelations. A handful already had legal teams tirelessly working on their cases. One prominent artist issued a brief remark to the media. "We're assessing previous incidents related to this issue. No additional comments." To most observers, that might appear routine, but for those paying close attention, it was evident I had insights they lacked. They were anxious that whatever information they possessed might already be documented. Inside the courtroom, the jury was silent, yet there was an unmistakable shift in the atmosphere. This case was no longer just about Diddy's mistake on one occasion. It represented something more profound. It revealed a system, a framework designed to conceal the truth, manipulate individuals quietly, and erase any evidence. And tragically, there were individuals complicit in its creation, those who looked the other way and remained silent because it was simpler than taking a stand. Then came Wahlberg's unforgettable closing statement. If you ever attended one of those gatherings, there's a chance you're on those recordings. We didn't need to say it into the microphone. The moment that phrase was uttered, only one question lingered in the air. Who will be the next to speak? What we've just witnessed isn't just a courtroom drama, it's the beginning of an unraveling. Behind closed doors, in velvet-coated rooms, under NDAs and silent contracts, lives were manipulated. Voices were buried. But not anymore. Mark Wahlberg's voice is only the first in what might become a wave of truth. And now, the silence feels deafening, because it speaks to how long we've allowed power to hide behind performance. If this shook you, if you believe these stories deserve to be heard, not buried, then like this video, share it with someone who still trusts the surface, and subscribe for updates as this investigation unfolds. And tell us in the comments, do you think more celebrities will come forward? Or are we only seeing the beginning of something much darker?